Constructive Thinking is a podcast by the Progressive Contractors Association of Canada. My name is Stephen Hamilton, and I am the Director of Public Affairs Ontario for PCA. In this episode, we will be discussing the CLAC Group Sponsorship Program. This program was filmed May 9, 2025. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, welcome everyone to the PCA Constructive Thinking podcast. Today I'm joined by Colin who's the director of the CLAC Training, Apprenticeship and Jobs Program for Ontario and Manitoba, and Kaylee Milne, Apprenticeship and Group Sponsor Coordinator for CLAC Training, Apprenticeship and Jobs, also for Ontario and Manitoba. Thank you for joining me today.
Morning.
Thanks for having us.
So today we want to talk about the CLAC Apprenticeship Group Sponsorship Program. Folks that are listening to this are familiar with how apprenticeship works generally, and the relationship between the employer and the apprentice. Maybe if you could walk through exactly what a group sponsorship program is in the apprenticeship space and how that differs from the traditional model of apprenticeship. I'll start with you, Colin.
Thanks, Stephen. Group sponsor is a ministry-approved collection or consortium of employers and unions that collaborate and share their responsibility for the apprenticeship journey. That includes the recruiting, the registering, and general supporting apprentices across multiple workplaces and companies. CLAC's successful model established in 2022, it's a labor management-based model, so we work closely with our employers to provide the best experience possible. And that apprenticeship centralization, which is a bit different than what is traditionally a sponsorship within a single employer, provides support and administration, mentoring, and registration through what now is Skilled Trades Ontario, which is responsible for the registration and certification of apprentices to journey persons in Ontario.
Thank you, Colin. So it is quite a bit different from the previous model. This has been running now for, 2 years, and CLAC is the recipient of provincial funding through the Skills Development Fund to assist in this model. So what are some of the benefits of this approach compared to the older model of apprenticeship?
Yeah, and we support both models of apprenticeship because we have apprentices across Ontario with multiple employers who are registered with and sponsored by their employer and or are using our group sponsor to provide that apprenticeship registration. So it's a mixed support. When employers partner with us to provide that sponsorship support for their apprentices, we're finding, and they're telling us it's reducing that administrative burden on the employer because we take on the registration paperwork for that apprentice and for all their apprentices, if that's the case. And then we manage all the progression steps towards completion of that apprenticeship through the 4 to 5 years that an apprentice is going through that learning journey. And then centralization provides us more economies of scale to promote recruitment, to retain those apprentices, and then complete them through that consistent one-on-one support, exam support, and mentorship support for them. So we act as the formal sponsor, but apprentices are placed and work for an employer for that hands-on experience. And then on back end, we handle compliance issues. We progress them, monitor that progress, and then they'll provide all those wraparound supports for them.
Thank you. So in the apprenticeship space before 2018, it was a very complicated system where you had each trade had a different journey person to apprentice ratio. So some trades were like 3 journey persons to 1 apprentice. It was all over the map. And then the government decided to simplify it, make it 1 journey person to 1 apprentice. So if you have 1 journey person, if you have 4 journey persons, you're allowed 4 apprentices. That's the ratio. I'm curious how that works under this system. Is it the same as people would be familiar with?
Yeah, so ratio is still company specific, province wide. It's not work site specific. So an employer who's with our group sponsor or on their own would be subject to the ratios of 1-to-1 for their entire company. That includes any registered journey person in the compulsory trades. The count would be 1-to-1 with each journey person to each apprentice. And the group sponsor doesn't change that. It is a company-specific calculation.
So it seems like this system does take a lot of the administrative burden out of the employer and bring it kind of centralizes it towards CLAC. which is obviously beneficial for smaller and medium-sized companies. I'm wondering if you could provide some of the feedback that you've heard from PCA members that have gone down this route.
I can jump in with that. I'm dealing with the day-to-day of our group sponsor program. The employer feedback has been great so far. Again, like you mentioned, it's small to medium-sized employers. And, within that scope, everyone is different. Everyone's needs are different. What their apprenticeship team needs are different. Some of the feedback has been related just simply to, I don't know where to start. I haven't done this before. Something really relatable is I wear every hat at the company. I'm the owner. I'm the HR, I'm our recruiter, I'm our trainer. That's where we can really step in and provide the support to navigate the system. And Stina, like you mentioned, things have been changed over the years to hopefully make the process a lot more accessible and easy for the sponsor and the apprentice. And that's been a really big focus as well. And the feedback from employers is that we've made it really easy. Our turnarounds are really quickly. I have the capacity in our team to really follow up. That'll be the nice way to say it, with their apprentices until we get it done. We're really persistent to make sure that it gets fully wrapped up. Some of the feedback has been even related to, like Colin mentioned before, the progression support and what we do for those apprentices once they're registered. We do regular check-ins with them. We try and map out what those responsibilities are for apprentices, logging or tracking their hours, making sure they complete their logbook, accepting and receiving feedback from their team so that they can grow within their career. It's been a really great opportunity to get that feedback from our employers because we just didn't have that engagement before. We could hear about the woes of the apprenticeship system, but we never really saw it firsthand. And this has really made a big impact.
Very interesting. So I'm curious, how does it work if an apprentice is going to trade school, if there's a shortage of work? There's always kind of, as everyone knows, construction isn't always smooth in terms of the labor market. Can you kind of explain a bit of the process of how an apprentice would move from company to company and how the individual construction firm still maintains a role within that process?
Yeah, employers are encouraged to retain apprentices as long as there's work available for them. And an employer wants to retain that individual through the full scope of their apprenticeship from start to finish, or whenever they register them, if they're an experienced apprentice coming on board. And that's the model that we want to promote with employers. Apprentices go to trade school a few times during their term, depending on the trade, whether it's 3 or 4 times. And at that point, we want apprentices to go to trade school, but we also want them to come back. And we found that in many times apprentices do go away and they don't come back. So we really want to connect with those apprentices before they go to trade school, ensure that they know about the supports we have and that we can help them and retain them. But in times of shortage of work where an apprentice is laid off, is separated from employment, they connect with our apprenticeship team, Kaylee and others, and then they connect directly with our CLAC jobs program as well. We have a lot of employers that are looking for experienced apprentices. So we want to provide not just retention with employer supports, but retention with CLAC in our community so that we can provide them opportunities to stay with CLAC and then just transfer their apprenticeship to the next employer. So Kaylee, maybe you could talk about how that apprenticeship registration transfers through the group sponsor program from one signatory or PCA employer to the next.
Yeah, the process starts, like Colin mentioned, these milestone check-ins or these check-ins with the apprentices to remind them what services we have. Part of that process is even just explaining what it looks like, what the industry is like. A lot of apprentices already know that they may be with multiple trainers or sponsors throughout their apprenticeship. And we really make it clear that it is their responsibility to be tracking hours. So that is the first bit, is making sure that they really understand where they're at and getting those letters from their sponsor. When it comes to group sponsor, where we can step in is hopefully managing them or assisting them with getting connected with another group sponsor employer. So we've actually had a lot of success with a few of the trades, electrical and sheet metal workers, where they've transferred from one group sponsor employer to the next seamlessly. There's nothing to be done. We hold the training agreement, so it's very straightforward. If it happens that they go from group sponsor to a CLAC employer outside of group sponsor, we can still support them, but there's a bit more of the paperwork that goes with that. But we can help them with that. We've done change of sponsors for those apprentices so that the new employer, even if they don't need group sponsor, we can help them out.
Gotcha. So it's still early days, but it looks like there's quite a few trades that are involved in this program. You have electrician, plumber, sheet metal worker, carpenter, sprinkler and fire protection, construction craft worker, steam fitter, HVAC, heavy duty equipment technician. Is there any? Are we missing any? Are there any that will be added to the list? Because it seems like a pretty comprehensive list in terms of the main, certainly the compulsory trades in construction, but also some of the main voluntary ones.
Yeah, there's a focus to have a balance of both of those and understanding what our needs are while we are applying for the funding and getting this program up off the ground. The list is not set in stone. We are able to apply for other trades if we know there's a need and that it's worthwhile for that team. So we're exploring the option of glass and metal technician or glazier right now. We have talked with other employers that, like you mentioned, those non-compulsory trades where they just historically haven't registered them, but they see the importance of the formal apprenticeship system. So we don't want to say that list is one and done. If there is another trade out there that it's worthwhile exploring, we'll take on that challenge.
Fantastic. And so, again, it's early days, but how many employers, how many apprentices are part of the group sponsorship system to date?
Yeah, we had a great uptake since 2022, formally launched towards the end of that year. So we've been about 2 years, just over, had a 3-year funding program given to us by the government through SDF, Group Sponsorship Grant. And we just got renewed for that for 2025 to 2026. And in that, since we launched, we have over 50 employers that have signed what we call a memorandum of understanding. It's a pretty informal document that we ask to have employers commit to that is basically the same commitments they have with their current apprenticeship sponsorship arrangement with the ministry, because employers act as the on-site trainer for us and their mentor journey persons, and then we act as the administrative sponsor on the back end. We hope to bring on within next year 10 more employers. We're already on track for that with the funding. And since that time, we've had over 230 apprentices registered with us at any given time. And that's going to be growing by, we hope by 100 in the next few months as well. So that's been a great uptake for us. We exceeded our goals with the ministry. The uptake from employers has been great. And we just started inviting employers who haven't yet taken advantage of this program to join with us. And I just want to make a note that it is a voluntary program as well. It's not mandatory that you have to participate. It is a value add, we believe, to the employer's toolkit of services that they can provide for the next generation, to recruit the next generation of apprentices, and we support them as well. We have total over 1,500 apprentices throughout Ontario. So that's a key number there as well. As we grow, the one-to-one ratio change in 2018, 2019, we've seen almost a doubling of those apprentices. So now we have way more apprentices in the field and about the same number of journey persons with natural growth. So we just have more learning opportunities, more people that need the support. So we want to make sure that the group sponsor can provide that support to more people and grow those opportunities.
Well, that's great, Colin. So that's where we're at today. I guess, how do you see this program expanding into the future?
With that high interest from employers and as the awareness grows, we're really seeing adoption and uptake from different sectors, subsectors, the construction industry, and geographically as well. So it's not just a central Ontario thing, but as we grow in all the corners of this province, it's really important for us to be able to provide these services to remote and rural areas as well. And then also with non-compulsory trades, as we mentioned, there and Kaylee talked about, we have opportunities to grow that sector. The challenges with the recent transition from the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, the ministry consultants that employers have been used to dealing with, the one-on-one support they've had with their what they call a training consultant. As of April 2nd, 2025, that switched over to Skilled Trades Ontario. So we know and have heard from employers about the challenge in working with a new apprenticeship authority that is new not just to that employer, but new to the system as well, because that's a newer organization. So we've been helping establish a relationship with the STO. And then as that awareness about this program grows, all the support that we're offering more employers and more apprentices are requesting support from CLAC because we know we are an experienced trainer of apprentices. And that awareness is demonstrated by enhanced community engagement from community partners, government, trade schools, and other industry partners who come now to CLAC saying, you have something to say, a value add to say in the apprenticeship system, and they're asking for our participation because we have a large number of apprentices. We're one of the largest supporters of apprentices in Ontario now because of our group sponsor programs. So they are coming to us for advice and feedback. And together with PCA, we've been able to have a great front when it comes to providing feedback into the system.
I think that's such an important point because, again, you noted the ministry is now transferring authority and delegating authority to Skilled Trades Ontario. These are kind of complicated bureaucratic things happening in the background. And when it's an employer navigating the system on their own, like this is kind of needless red tape that doesn't really assist them in their day-to-day business. So it does help when CLAC is able to navigate these complicated bureaucratic channels that are always changing, as everyone knows. So as much as members can offload that to CLAC, I think that's certainly a value add, and that's important to note, Colin. So again, somewhat of a different model. Historically, there's always been issues with completion rates in the apprenticeship system. Ontario, if you look at the Stats Canada data, and I know there's always issues with some of that high-level data, but Ontario has historically, among some of the worst completion rates in the country. How do you see this model improving completion rates? Do you see it improving completion rates? Do you see it improving the length of time that an apprentice is going through the system to when they finally get their certificate of qualification?
Yeah, I think the biggest factor is the awareness piece and making sure that we, from day one, through our onboarding with our apprentices, making them aware of how important that final step is, because they may consider, oh, it's 4 years from now, but that happens quickly, and that they can do some things from day one to help them succeed, including understanding what strengths or opportunities they might have when it comes to in-class learning, because they're so used to being on-site on the tools, working with their team directly. The transition to in-class training can sometimes be alarming for them and something that they're not used to. So it's making sure that the apprentices understand that. And our goal is really to support them through the progression that way. So again, those check-ins with them, giving them all the resources that they can have. Our CLAC team is working to build out more CFQ resources because we know that in Ontario, those rates are quite low for completion on the first try. Some of that has to do with factors that are out of our control, whether it's the curriculum or the actual content on the exam. But what we can control is the awareness piece and making sure apprentices understand it's important and you can do something about it now versus once you get to the day before your exam, or hopefully not a failed attempt, but that is pretty common where someone needs to do it more than once, and what we can do to support them through that.
Fantastic. So we talked about the benefits for small and medium-sized companies within the group sponsorship model. Is there the same value add for larger companies that might be considering transferring over to a group sponsorship model?
Yeah. And I think even more so now with the switch from the ministry to Skilled Trades Ontario, there's a great push for that. We've had employers, even in the last month, make the switch over to register and transfer all their apprentices to CLAC Group Sponsor because of the change and the experience that they've had compared to the ministry and now STO. It's a very simplified push for employers, but it really is the biggest change and it's impacting them today. So it's a really great piece for any size employer with any trade that we can help all of their apprentices. It doesn't just have to be new hires or new apprentices. That experienced apprentices can get support as well.
So there are larger companies, without naming names, there are larger companies that have transferred over to the system.
Yes, we've had recently an employer that previously was only giving us new hires. And now, especially again with that change as of April 2nd, they were working this week to get everyone transferred over so that we can support their full apprenticeship team throughout this transition.
Excellent. And going back to different trades, there's some voluntary trades, there's compulsory trades. A lot of the trades, people working in the voluntary space never needed to go through a formal apprenticeship program because they didn't see the value to it. How do you see this group sponsorship model creating more interest in the voluntary space. I'm thinking, for instance, there's a lot of government subsidies, tax benefits when you do have apprentices registered. Obviously, CLAC is not the one keeping that money at the end. That gets disseminated to the employer. But maybe talk a little bit about how you see this program creating more opportunities and interest in the apprenticeship space within the voluntary trade space. So like carpentry and some of those trades.
Yeah, we've been approached by a number of employers who employ voluntary trades, general contractors, subcontractors, those who have experienced workers in the general carpenter space or the construction craft worker space, but don't formally provide apprenticeship. The group sponsor provides a turnkey solution to that to create a formal apprenticeship program within that company. And on the recruitment side, that provides a benefit because that provides to prospective apprentices a educational pathway, a formal education through an apprenticeship through that space. And that's key when it comes to recruitment and providing that next generation of worker that educational pathway. From employers who have not fully maximized the apprenticeship programs, they may have a few, let's say, Red Seal carpenters on staff, but have not formally registered or sponsored an apprentice, or those that have but want to expand that as well. What we have been able to do together with the ministry, now with Skilled Trades Ontario and with our group sponsors, to provide more spots by looking at your current workforce and finding individuals who have experience as, let's say, a general carpenter, but don't have the official ticket, the Red Seal certificate qualification. And through group sponsor, we can work with the employer to deem those individuals as journey persons for the purposes of ratio so that they can bring on an apprentice. So they may have 2 Red Seal carpenters, but they want to register 4 apprentices. We could find 2 highly experienced workers within their crew to deem them, so then we can bring on 4 apprentices and have 4 journey persons. So what that does is provides a large opportunity for recruitment and a formal education and training of these individuals to become Red Seal carpenters. Then in turn, then they become the mentored journey person at some point for that next crop. So just it's a great growth opportunity of the workforce.
So that's a really important point. So if you have workers that have been practicing or working as carpenters for years and years and years, they weren't part of the apprenticeship system, they do not have their certificate of qualification, they can still be deemed journey persons.
Yes.
Through the system. CLAC will assist with that process. I think that's very important to note because a lot of companies that work in the voluntary space didn't previously see a lot of benefits to the apprenticeship system. But if there's a way, and it sounds like there's a way of transferring them over somewhat seamlessly, I think it seems huge.
Yeah, and before the employers believe that individual had to go get their Red Seal ticket and challenge that exam, which is great. And we will support them to do that if it's ultimately what that prospective journey person wants to do. We have a pathway for that as well through our group sponsor and through our training program. But on the back end, we can use that individual as a journey person so that we can bring on an apprentice in the fold. So that's a process we've developed and has proven to be successful. And we think that's the largest growth opportunity of the current workforce. Because if you can sponsor an apprentice, one of your key people, you'll retain them. You're supporting them through development of their skill set, recognition of their learning and training, and then they will be a more loyal worker for you for a long time.
Excellent. So I think we'll end it there. Lots of information for members to digest here. This was a fantastic conversation. Hope to have you guys back in the future to give us a little bit of an update on the program as it evolves. And we'll leave your contact information in the notes so people can contact you if they have any questions on the CLAC Group Sponsorship Program. But I just want to say thank you, Colin Duraff and Kaylee Milne, for joining me today. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.